So, tonight is kind of a special night for me. Paul Metsa and I have known each other, we figured, for 28, almost 30 years. And it's really a pleasure to invite him to Silver Bay. You know, Paul is a very accomplished musician, songwriter, author, radio and TV host, Iron Ranger, but he's from Virginia, not Hibbing, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Paul is a really neat guy. He's won 7 Minnesota Musician Awards. I mean, Paul is an accomplished Minnesota musician. Give a round of applause for Paul. The guy just keeps on going. He's the ever ready or whatever battery, more than 5,000 gigs. I mean, that's a lot of plucking, my friend. And he's now living in West Duluth, having spent the last year living in the Goldfine/Zimmerman duplex in Duluth. And I'm going to go on a little long tonight on the intro, if you guys are okay with this, just because, and he's living with his dog Blue in West Duluth, and always remembering Blackie, for sure, always remembering Blackie. Paul and I have been around. I was between jobs at one time, and Paul was playing Nyes, and I spent a lot of nights, Marilyn, at Nyes. Really? But we had fun, right, Paul? It was great. But Paul was the fellow who introduced me to this really wonderful cat, a guy named Larry Keegan, whom actually Gino LaFawn knew very well. And, Paul and I guess we met Larry, and you brought him to an Iron Ranger fundraiser, a DFL fundraiser. Remember that night? And we brought him up on stage, and he performed. And I know Gino and Dick were there because they brought him in, as I recall. Quadriplegic, good friend of Bob Zimmerman's or Bob Dylan's, and Gino can tell us many more stories about that because he was intimately involved. But it was through Paul that I met Larry, and Larry became a lifelong friend, and was a wonderful man. Remember, we got him to the Jesse Ventura gig. He played at the Target Center, I think it was, for Jesse Ventura. So Paul and I helped lug stuff around for him at that time. The Minnesota Law and Politics calls Paul a folk singer, a guitarist, a social activist, a Finn, and that's a good thing, and a storyteller, a philosopher, a conspiracy theorist, and larger-than-life performer. He's played with a number of people over the years, including Bruce Springsteen, among others. And Paul can tell the boss, whom we're going to see in February in Tulsa. Anyway, maybe I'll stop here. But, the author side of Paul is very interesting. He's published this. Yeah, I won't put it up. But if you get a chance, try to find Blue Guitar Highway, which is a wonderful story of Paul's life over the years. University of Minnesota Press, as I recall, publication on Paul, by Paul. And it's in the Silver Bay Library. And I think that if things work out tonight, the Two Harbors Library will end up with a signed copy of that book. He's got a new book coming out, which he may recite from tonight a little bit, Alphabet Jazz. We should look for that next month. It's going to be released. That's going to be a really cool book. And I think there's a third one in the works. Yeah, I'll let you tell folks about that. Anyway, it gives me a great pleasure. The other thing is that we've got, with Paul tonight, Sonny Terry. No, not Sonny Terry. Anyway, Sonny Earl is with Paul tonight, and he's known as the best harmonica player and harpist in Iceland, I've heard today. Right, Paul? So, among other things. So it gives me great pleasure, after my long-winded BS here, to introduce Paul Metsa and Sonny Earl. Welcome to Silver Bay, you guys. Oh, I forgot to mention, there's merch. Yeah. There's merch over here, $20 per CD. Great merch.
After that introduction, I think I'm going to change my name, stage name, from Sonny Earl to Sonny the Afterthought Earl. Listen, he won't. Well, all right. First, the shirt, the fabulous shirt, is compliments of Paul Metsa.
Yes.
He bought me this shirt. Where did you get the
I
shirt?
bought
from?
it from when I was moving out of Northeast Minneapolis before I moved to Duluth. There was a guy that had a garage sale, and if you've ever seen my garage, my attic, my basement, you'll know I'm a big garage sale guy. My garage sale truck just goes right there. And so I bought about 12 shirts from this guy, and I said, by the way, why do you have all these groovy shirts? And he goes, I'm from Venezuela, and I'm a flamenco dancer. So if Sonny breaks out in a little bit of this tonight, you know the shirt's working its mojo. Let's hear it again for my buddy John Saristo.
Yeah.
All right. I am going to be reading, for the first time in public, a couple pieces from my book, Alphabet Jazz, Poetry, Prose, Stories, and Songs. It's kind of my COVID project. And I'm honored to say the book, Blue Guitar Highway, that was published by the University of Minnesota Press, which was a unique coincidence because in 1977, I had been studying classical guitar with a guy in Duluth named Robert Wander, who was actually the father, if you've ever heard of the great rapper-writer Dessa. I found out when she was doing a show at Orchestra Hall, she introduced her dad, Robert Wander, and I go, that was my classical guitar teacher. Well, I studied for a couple years with him, and I went down to the University of Minnesota to try to get into the music program more to try to please my parents than anything. And I passed my playing exam with flying colors. But my theory exam, I remember the very first question. It was, what is a Neapolitan chord? And I go, I'm screwed. Because I spent 2 years at Mesabi State Junior College. You're all old enough to remember what a junior college is. I refer to it as high school with ashtrays. So anyway, I got a letter back from the U of M that I wish I would have kept. It said, you know, these back then they used to written on a typewriter, right? It was on a computer. Carbon. With carbons, yes, and whiteout. Let's not forget whiteout. And it said, upon reviewing your test results, and capitalized, we highly recommend you find another field of study. So it was with great pleasure in 2011, I got a call from that same university, the University of Minnesota Press. It goes, we'd love to have you write an autobiography about your 30 years in the music business. Now, if I had that letter, it would have been on the first page of that freaking book. But anyway, I got a lot of great reviews, if I can brag a little bit from, but my favorite was from Kirkus Review that said, Metsa is as likable a narrator as ever graced the bar stool. Yes, although I'm glad my mother had passed, so she didn't have to read that. But and Charles Bukowski. All right. How many people were at the show last night? God, we better do a new set list. I feel like a little blues. And before we get started, I think let's do Low Down Woman. All right. This might be a little counterintuitive to dedicate this song to two wonderful women that have been our hosts, the great Marilyn French And Miss Lisa right here. She couldn't have been nicer. So we're going to do a little blues number for you ladies. What's it called, Sonny?
I don't know how you're going to segue into this. The song's called Low Down Woman. Thank you. Low down woman, low down girl of mine. Low down woman, low down girl of mine. She got a bottle in her hand and many things on her mind. Low down woman won't cook me nothing to eat. All she wanna do is walk the street. She got red like a devil, moving like a snake. Nothing can stop her. Well, she's on the make, and she's a low down woman. Low down all the time. Sometimes I sit and wonder, why do I keep that low-down girl of mine? Yeah, she's a wine-headed woman. She stayed on all the time. Falls I can turn that gal. She ain't worth a dime now. She's a money-grabbing woman. When I'm broke, she treats me mean. When I got my paycheck, she's the sweetest thing I'd ever seen. Low down woman, low down all the time. Sometimes I wonder, why do I keep that low down girl of mine? Yeah, she's a wine-headed woman. She stayed drunk all the time. Falls I concern my gal. She ain't worth a dime, 'cause she's a money-grabbing woman. When I'm broke, she treats me mean. When I got my paycheck, she's the sweetest thing I'd ever seen. She's a low-down woman now. Low down all the time. Sometimes I sit and wonder why I keep that low down girl of mine.
Thank you very much.
Good night, everybody.
All right, good. All right, we'll take a little break. Be right back.